Right. Sounds good. Welcome, everybody. Let's get this thing rolling, talking about targeting tonight. First, before we get into it, just a quick thank you to Nick and then anybody else on this call that was a part of the conversation back in January at that NERSA National Flag Football Tournament. I think that group came together and realized there was a need for this group to really the purpose of the group formed to have intramural student flag football officials come together and who are working high school football and some professionals come together who are working high school and college football to continue that in the off season. And I think as we've seen with the number of participants on this call tonight and some of the other calls we've had, this thing's really grown and has some legs now. So thank you, Nick, and then everybody else that's presented to this point. Hopefully tonight everybody can take one little nugget away, and if they do, then I'd call this thing successful. For those that don't know me, my name is AJ Haddock. I'm a headline judge in the GLIAC conference made up of schools from Michigan and Ohio. A couple housekeeping things. I hope to keep this to 45 minutes, 50 minutes. I know there's a few of you on this call that have other meetings tonight. So 4 slides. Bear with me through these slides and then we'll get into plays. I have 10 plays. Most of them have poll questions. So we'll get into some of that. And then as we've seen through these other video calls on Wednesday, I'm hoping this is discussion driven, a little bit of back and forth and not just me talking at my screen for 45 minutes. So again, wealth of knowledge on this call. No question's a bad question. No comment's a bad comment. Again, we all have different levels of officiating knowledge on this. And then a little disclaimer, anything that comes out of my mouth does not represent the GLIAC or the NCAA. This is just me in my house talking football, talking targeting. So yeah, targeting. I think there's endless video out there to watch in terms of training material for targeting. The CFO targeting, and then his most recent tape was on personal fouls and had a couple targeting clips in there. So there's some really good resources out there. And the point tonight is not so much correct call, incorrect call, as much as it is a focus on positioning, mechanics, and then really what does a conversation on the field look like to get these calls right. I intentionally grabbed some Division II NAIA D3 film to show, partly because of the quality of the film. We're only getting a press box and an end zone, and sometimes that end zone is somebody standing there with a handheld camera. So really we're not going to get great looks at where the contact may have occurred. But again, the point of this discussion hopefully is to focus on positioning, mechanics, and then really what the conversation on the field is going to look like to get it right. Because we know us that are working D2 and lower, we don't have the luxury of sending this upstairs to replay and them to flip it on us and get it right. We have to get this right. So let's jump in. If I can go to the next slide here. A lot of words on the slide. Bear with me. We've got to set the groundwork here. But targeting rule. So 913, targeting, making forcible contact with the crown of the helmet. No player shall target and make forcible contact against an opponent with the crown of his helmet. This requires that there be at least one indicator of targeting. When in question, it is a foul. 914, targeting, making forcible contact to the head or neck area of a defenseless player. So no player shall target, make forcible contact to the head or neck area of a defenseless opponent with the helmet, forearm, hand, fist, elbow, shoulder. This foul requires that there be at least one indicator of targeting. Again, when in question, it is a foul. The penalty is 15 yards. Dead ball fouls, 15 yards from the succeeding spot. Automatic first down for fouls by B, if not in conflict with other rules. And then we know that it carries a disqualification. If that foul occurs in the first half, the player is disqualified for the remainder of the game. And then if the foul occurs in the second half, that player is disqualified for the remainder of the game and the first half of the next game. So big penalty for something like this. So let's break that down a little bit. When we look at these definitions, we see forcible, indicator, defenseless, these words right here. Let's break these words down a little bit, and we'll walk through this slide. Those engineering-minded people may enjoy this slide. Those of us that maybe don't think like that, this can be a little confusing, but I'm going to try and describe this rule using a flow chart. Again, this isn't the only way to think about targeting, and I think you could probably poke some holes in this flow chart, but I think it's a good way to start by understanding this rule. So walk with me here through this first question. Does the player target an opponent with forcible contact using the crown of his helmet? So the word forcible, right? Let's look down to indicators of targeting. So bottom left. This is how these indicators are critical when we have targeting or we think we have targeting on the field. Really one of the first questions we should be asking ourselves is, what's the indicator? And so this forcible and indicator in a way go hand in hand. And again, these indicators come right out of the rule book. So a launch, a player leaving his feet to attack an opponent, a crouch with an upward, outward thrust to attack an opponent, leading with the helmet, shoulder, forearm, fist, hand, elbow to attack an opponent, and to lower the head before attacking an opponent. So all four of those use the word attacking in them when talking about indicators. So come back to the top. Does the player target an opponent, or does the player target an opponent with forcible contact using the crown of his helmet? So if we have a crown play and we have an indicator, that's 913, we have a targeting foul. So somebody lowers their head and contacts an opponent forcefully, targeting foul, 913. If that first hit happens and we don't have a crown play, so we're up at the top, does a player use the crown of his helmet? We answer that question, no. Then we need to move down to the next question. Is the player being hit defenseless by rule? So let's look at defenseless players. And the rule book lists 10 defenseless players, but I think there are situations on the field that occur where it isn't defined in the rule book as a defenseless. The player may not be defined as defenseless in the rule book, but there are situations where they could still be defenseless. So let's just walk through these real quick. A player in the act or just after throwing a pass, a player attempting to catch a pass, a kicker in the act of kicking the ball, a kick returner attempting to recover a kick, a player on the ground, a player obviously out of the play, a player who receives a blindside block, ball carrier grasped when his progress is stopped, quarterback after a change of possession, and a ball carrier who gives himself up and slides feet first. Okay, so we're back at the top. We're looking at, we don't have a crown play, but we have a hit. We ask the question, is it against a defenseless player? If we answer that no, it's either a legal play or it could be a foul for UNR. So let's say we have a running back, runs to the right side of the field, 1 foot in the white, out of bounds, gets hit, maybe in the head or neck area. By rule, he's not defenseless, he's a runner. And so we could have a foul for UNR, or it could just be a legal play. Now, if the player is defenseless, so we have a hit, we have a defenseless player, and there's forcible contact to the head or neck area. Again, forcible, look at the indicators. If we answer that question, yes, we have a foul for targeting, 914. And so again, we need an indicator though. So think about receiver goes up for a pass, defensive back comes in, launches and makes forcible contact to the head or neck area of that receiver, we have a foul for targeting. If the contact isn't forcible or it's not to the head or neck area, it's either a legal play or a foul for UNR. Good. And then the last box in the middle down at the bottom that says legal indicators. These are not, again, when we're talking targeting, we're trying to piece a puzzle together. I don't think if one of these happens that we can't have targeting. In fact, one could happen and we could still have targeting. But we talk about things that might turn targeting off on the field. Does the defender attempt to lower his target zone? Does he attempt to wrap up, not lower his helmet? Or maybe there's a natural change of player position, or not attacking, not forcible. So those are indicators on the field that we may see where targeting may not be a foul for targeting because of one of those 5 things that happens on the field. With me so far? All right. Before we get into the plays, a couple things to consider when talking about targeting. We know that targeting, it needs to be a crew call. There may only be one flag. There may not even be a flag. We might have to have a conversation and drop a flag. There might be more than one flag. But regardless, we need to have multiple officials in on that call to have a conversation. Again, you may not have information, you may not have seen the hit, but you can be that sound, level mind that comes in and listens to what's happening on the field while that conversation's going on. Are they going down the right path? Are they talking indicators? Are they thinking about enforcement properly? There's all sorts of things that you may be able to do in that conversation to help the crew out when we have a big foul like targeting. Change of possession plays. I think that's something where when we do have a change of possession, so an interception, a scrimmage kick, our antennas need to go up and we need to be thinking potential targeting along with some other types of fouls. But that's oftentimes where we might see a blindside block, defenseless player potentially targeting. We know that the quarterback remains defenseless throughout a play. A player out of the play, a player obviously out of the play, those happen on change of possession plays. And then kick returner may be somebody on a change of possession play where we could have targeting. Something else to think about is passing plays in man versus zone. Think about when you're on the field, when are we most likely to have a targeting play? When the defense is playing man-to-man or when they're in a zone? And I think this is good for the deep 3 and the line of scrimmage officials to think about. When they're in man-to-man coverage, players are running in the same direction. Receiver, defender are going up the field in the same direction. I think we need to be thinking pass interference and maybe some other types of fouls, but I don't think targeting is something we're going through our mind when we're in man-to-man coverage. It's zone that we need to really think about. Players going in opposite directions, a safety coming over to break up a play, linebacker over the middle with the receiver coming over the middle. Those are the types of plays where players are going in opposite directions that we may have targeting. A concept that's been floated out there this offseason, it may have been around longer than this offseason, but I've heard it this offseason and I like it. Haven't been able to apply it on the field yet, but we're talking catch, no catch along the sidelines. We know we're going feet to ball, right? We need to get these plays right. We need to start with the feet and go to the ball. Well, when we're in the middle of the field and we have these catches over the middle of the field, we should try and work these things hands to head. So the hands are going to take us, the receiver's hands are going to take us to the football. And once we have those hands on the football, work up to the head, and I think it's going to slow us down or at least give us a shot in our mind of where that contact happened. Again, I heard it this offseason. I like it. I'm going to try it this upcoming season. On passes over the middle, but I thought I'd share something to consider. And then the last thing I put on there is GLIAC replay. We don't actually have replay in the GLIAC, and I'm sure a lot of you all do the same thing, but it's worth noting. When we have these unusual plays on the field, targeting or any sort of unusual play, it's an opportunity for us to get together and have a conversation and have our own replay on the field and piece the thing together. It might feel like eternity out there. 10 seconds might feel like a minute feels like 10 minutes. But really, when we think about it, when we have these game-changing plays, and the penalty is to disqualify somebody, um, or we have a touching of an onside kick or a block on an onside kick, it shows everybody that we're coming together and we're going to get it right. We're going to talk about it and we're going to get it right. And so really, at the end of the day, it might feel like a long time, but the perception by the coaches and everybody else is that we're getting together, we're piecing this information together, and we're going to come out of this with the right call. So with that, Nick, if there are questions that have come up, please stop me, ask them in the chat, or just unmute yourself and ask.
We're all clear here.
Sounds good. Well, we're going to go to video then. Little you make the call, if you will. In the chat box, the first thing in that chat box should be a link to YouTube. The YouTube link that Nick sent out earlier today, it has the plays. I'm going to attempt to run Huddle from my computer. Earlier this morning, it was pretty choppy, and then in the afternoon, it seemed to be a little bit better. So let's give this a shot and see if we can run this from Huddle. Nick or somebody, as this thing goes, I guess let me know. I'm going to run it from Huddle regardless because this is being recorded and I guess can get uploaded to YouTube, and it'll be fine when you're rewatching it. But let me know if this is too choppy and that people are just going to have to watch those plays on their computer. So let's give this a shot right here. So I'll let this run through. We're going to start. Again, these plays are not meant to trick us. The camera angle is not great. These poll questions are to just get us thinking. There's no right or wrong answer to some of these plays. Well, let's run this and see. First one's a fun one.
Looks pretty good.
All right, let's keep running this. So I'm going to run this through press box twice, and then end zone. And then I'm going to have Nick throw up a poll just to get us see where we're at on the field here. Oh, let's go to end zone now. All right, Nick, you want to throw up the first poll? I think this video will go. Yeah, actually, with these poll questions, I'll let the video run. All right, that's good enough. I think we can end that poll. Good. I think all of us are thinking. I don't know if you can see these results or not, but the large majority of people are saying the deep three. So back judge, field judge, side judge. I think all three of us on this play. Yes, the back judge is responsible for the returner. Is going to see the hit. I think on something this big, this obvious, we can have a few flags down on this play. And really, all 7 of us on the field are probably feeling something isn't right down at the other end. This was quite the hit here. So let's just walk through this real quick from a targeting standpoint and then a mechanics standpoint. So we know that the returner back here is defenseless in position to receive a kick, is defenseless by rule. And this player comes in and launches, makes forcible contact to the head or neck area of the returner. We have kick catch interference with targeting. I think that's pretty clear to everybody. Is there somebody on the call from the deep perspective that wants to talk about the mechanics of this play and the mechanics of the deep three?
I will. Can you go
Sure.
to the end zone view?
Sure.
I would personally start 7 yards deep and on his inside shoulder.
Okay.
They say be no more than 2 yards on his inside. Most punters are going to try to pin to the short side of the field so that their coverage guys don't have to cover the whole field.
Yep.
So normally he's going to go away from you, but even if he does cross you, you'll be able to get to a 45-degree angle at 7 yards to see the action. He's almost straight lined here when the action occurs.
Yep. All right, good. That's initial position for the back judge. I think one thing the back judge does nicely here is continues to officiate, right? We still have a kick on this play, and so we need to know who recovers this. I would say that the deep wing at the top, stay off the field here. Again, when goofy things, when something like this happens, the first thing that tends to go is our mechanics, right? On plays like this. So, I mean, again, it's so shocking to everybody. Our back judge fires a beanbag, then a flag. One of us comes on the field. I think, again, it's good to look at plays like this and then to try and slow these down so that when things like this do happen, our minds attempt to not go a million miles a minute. Something I'd recommend for the front four on this, and I think our umpire does a pretty good job here, is we have this big booming hit and we want to clean up this dead ball action. Now, nothing happens here, but let's get in there and separate players and then have the conversation on the field. We can take some time here because we can send teams to their sideline. R is going to send their offense on. K is going to send their defense on. We have some natural break in play to have a conversation. But again, this one, defenseless receiver, obvious attacking motion, forcible contact to the head or neck. One thing you may consider too is even on this play, if that gunner did lower his strike zone on this and say he hits him in the chest, just my thought here, but I think you'd be supported in a lot of ways to make this a flagrant personal foul and disqualify this player, even if it wasn't targeting. This is not well timed. He's just going down there with intent to punish. And so that's something else to think about on this play. Anything, Nick, or can we move on?
AJ, real quick from a deep
Yeah.
wing, since we got the back judge perspective, I just want to say that
please.
two real quick notes from the line. So from the press box side, this is our gunner. We're going to have this guy the whole way. So he was our initial key from the get-go. There's no reason to leave him. He's the brick in the hand, if you will.
Yep.
So from that piece, I think absolutely this deep wing will have it. I'm a little more hesitant of the other one transitioning away from his gunner a little as quickly. Trusting your partners to do that, it would be my suggestion, because at this moment, right here, right now, when the action's about to hit, is when there's still a potential threat from the other gunner side. So while we want all three deep wings to have an opinion, for those young officials out there, I think we get a little too quick on the trigger sometimes, and this is one of those we might have transitioned too quickly, and we were already pulling our flag out when this wasn't necessarily our guy to look at from the opposite press box side. So just something to keep in mind. I think they're all correct flags, obviously, but if you look at that action from the opposite press box side, there's still something that could have had your attention that if you wait, you might not have had a third flag on this play. Just 2 cents.
No, that's great. And I guess the last thing, and then we'll move on, is something that is this obvious to targeting. Remember, we need a number of the player that fouled. And if we don't have a number at this point, we're in some trouble here, because there's 4 K players down there in and around this pile. So again, we got to slow down. We got to process this. We can't disqualify somebody if we don't know who we're going to disqualify. So that is obvious as a hit as this is. Let's make sure that we're slowing down and getting a number on this. All right.
Hey, AJ, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, this is Billy. If you go back, this view is great. We also have to remember to keep officiating. There's 2 borderline blindside blocks, one behind the play and one after going for the loose ball. So we can't, it's so hard when a targeting foul happens. We get so amped up, but we have to remember to officiate the play. Right there at the 25 is one, and then right there at the 15 is a potential another. Not saying they are, but two very close that we could have.
Billy, I think to follow up on that, I think the reason being as an F or an S, if you keep your feet in concrete there and you keep your head still and don't overreact. I mean, if we see up in the top of the screen there, the S is, like you said, already coming onto the field. If your feet are in concrete, you tend to see the play fully. But from what it looks like, the deeps are already moving up as soon as the hit happens. There are numerous things that can happen there. It can get to the goal line, everything else. But I think if they keep their feet in concrete, they see that entire play. They see the entire action instead of reaching for their flags and freaking out there.
I agree. And the B does not have the dead ball spot. So, I mean, the way the ball is, the B should be on the goal line or retreating back towards the goal line, and keeping that wide perspective. But I think maybe the beanbag and the flag may have tripped them up as well.
Yep. All good points. Thank you guys for jumping on and sharing that. All right, let's go to the second play, and I'll run it through once, and then Nick, you can just throw the poll up. So we're looking at that defensive end right there coming in with a hit on the quarterback. I'll go one more from the press box, and then we'll go to the handheld end zone cam. Nick, if you want to throw the poll up, I can just loop this, and we can see. People can answer as this is being looped through. Run back the press box here. I'll give you one more look, and then we'll get your votes in. Again, no right or it's okay to fire something off and disagree with what I have to say. Just get something out there. All right. So it looks like the 80% of us think that is there an indicator for targeting? 80% of us would say yes. The defender dips his head and leads with the crown of his helmet. I would tend to agree with that, and I think our handheld camera in the end zone shows this best. Yes, he does jump in the air, but we can see, oh, that jumped on me. The defender come in and lower his helmet and lead with the crown, or the top of his head at least, into the helmet of the passer. And so I would say that, yes, we do have an indicator of targeting here. Now let's go back to the press box and just talk about the referees. You're going to be, and I'll let a referee jump on and maybe talk through the progression once this play starts, but we're in trips right now. And so it's 7 officials on the field. If we had 8, this would be a great play to have an 8th official on, center judge. But trips to the top of the screen. So referees' eyes are probably we're going to need some help as a line of scrimmage official on the tackle at the top. We know a line of scrimmage at the bottom. We have a back. So the line judge is going to have this running back. So we really can help with that tackle. But in terms of this hit, the referee is on an island here, and is really going to have to rule on this. Does any referees want to hop on and maybe talk through the progression of this play? If not, we can keep rolling.
Sorry, AJ, stuck on mute. You see the progression here, and AJ is 100% right with trips and 7 officials that we're going to be focusing on that right tackle. But that threat goes away fairly quickly when that right tackle gets superior position in pass coverage. There really isn't much of a threat. There's a slight suspect act there late in the play as it develops, but the primary threat is clearly on the right defensive end, left tackle side, and it's up to the referee and 7-man to really recognize that, transition over to the left side as quickly as possible and officiate that threat. If you're stuck on that potential hold on the right side, you're not getting over there quick enough as the referee, and as the wise men always say, in 7-man officiating. It's okay to miss a hold from time to time. It's not okay to wonder why your quarterback's lying there dead on the football field because we were trying to get a holding call right. So definitely find those threats in the quarterback and officiate those even better. Good note with AJ, whether or not you think this is or isn't a targeting foul, he wasn't asking that. He's just asking if there was an indicator. Just having an indicator sometimes isn't enough. Remember our flow chart. You need to have the indicator and forcible contact, whether or not it's going to be a crown play or a defenseless player play. So good thing or good play to discuss here with your crews to figure out what we can do to cover.
Good stuff. Let's keep rolling unless somebody else wants to chime in on that play. All right, next play, we got a scrimmage kick. We're going to have a blindside block in the middle of the field. Let's jump here. So I'll run this through one more time, and then I'll go to the end zone. And again, as you're watching this, think about who should be seeing this and who should be ruling on this hit. Go to the end zone, watch it from here, and then we could throw up a poll question. I'll slow this down and then. All right, so the large majority of us think on this play that we have a blindside block. Good, nobody thinks that this is a legal play. That is good because this is not legal. This is certainly a blindside block. And again, I'm not going to tell you one way or the other here, but I think we need to have the conversation on the field and figure out if that contact right there starts in that kicking team player's helmet and ear hole, or does that contact initiate in the body and shoulder, and what puts him on the ground? And so that's really the conversation on the field. Now go back to press box. Let's just look at the movement here. I think our field judge at the top of the screen does a really nice job of not moving. He stays put the entire time until he sees that. Now one note is I would say you don't need to get your flag to the greyhound in the middle of the field. You can drop that thing on a yard line, maybe out by the numbers. But movement here, you could tell their eyes were on this block. Or on this player the entire time. Back judges, I think on this play, clearly that returner has transitioned into a runner. We need to start to look through blocks, and we want to be on this block too. We certainly want to have an opinion on the field. Back judges, we probably want to flag on this too for a blindside block, and then have the conversation of, is this targeting? And then the umpire, quite honestly, the umpire may get a peek at this as there isn't a ton going on as this thing develops between the umpire and the hit. And so again, on the field, if we have a flag down and you have information, umpires, line of scrimmage, perhaps the headline judge on this play may have gotten a look at this. Again, if you have information, bring it to the table on the field. But the conversation on the field, if the field judge has targeting, we need to make sure it's targeting because that contact is in the head or neck area of this player. Thoughts or comments on this play? We can keep rolling if not.
Hey AJ, this is Matt Cook here down in Cincinnati. Hey, I think
Yeah.
this is a perfect play here to kind of talk about the difference between philosophy in a game with replay and a game without replay, right? Because, and then I think the philosophies are kind of changing a little bit, but, if we've got replay in this game, call it personal foul with targeting, announce it that way, right? Because if you, and I mean, I'm saying if you're sure it's not targeting, we're not going to call it that way, but if it's that
Right.
close and you get half a peek at it, player safety is paramount. You've got the BSB down anyway, let them review it.
Sure.
But in a play like this with, the GLIAC or the GLVC, do you officiate that any differently?
I mean, and that's a great point. And I think that we need to have, if we're going to send somebody off for targeting, we got to be sure. And so again, we can't just leave the field judge to be the only one that sees this block and the only one that has an opinion. Because if that's the case, we may get this wrong then. I think the back judge, the umpire, I think there's a number of officials on the field that may be able to offer where did that contact start. And again, I'm not telling you, and this is being recorded, I should maybe be careful with what I'm saying, but I'm not telling you need to officiate to an injury. But this kid does pop up pretty quick. That does not mean that it wasn't targeting. But had he stayed on the ground and grabbed his cage or adjusted his mask or so on and so forth, perhaps that's another piece of information on the field that could lead us to the contact started in the head. Again, don't officiate this targeting just based on injury, but it's another piece to the puzzle to maybe that contact started in the shoulder. Matt, thanks for jumping in there. That's good stuff. All right, let's go on to this next play. Sliding quarterback up the middle. Runner up the middle, I should say. I think I just gave the answer away on the poll question. Nick, do you want to launch that poll? So looking at this, is the quarterback defenseless on this play when there's the hit on the field? Let's run this. Show you one more end zone. I'll go back to press box, then we'll talk through this. All right, Nick, you want to launch that? Okay. Looks like the large majority of us, 80% of us think this is a quarterback that is defenseless as he's sliding. I would agree. Some of us think that it isn't. He's not defenseless and he's a runner when the hit's delivered. I would say on this play, and I think the end zone, trouble going back and forth here. I think the end zone helps us the most here, but we want to make this a sliding quarterback. And in fact, we'll look once from the end zone and then we'll go back to the press box. He is sliding on this play. He's defenseless by rule. In fact, when I freeze this right here, you can make the argument that he starts his slide around the 50. And so on this play, I would say we have a defenseless player. And I'll talk about the mechanics of this here as the line of scrimmage official here in a second, but we do have a defenseless player. And now the question becomes, is there forcible contact to the head or neck area? And I think the end zone helps us the most on this. And again, you can think what you want here. I'll offer my 2 cents. I believe that we do have a defenseless player, but the forcible contact occurs in the shoulder or the chest of this quarterback. And as you watch it and you slow it down, and we don't have the luxury on the field of doing this, but if you watch the quarterback's head, it actually goes forward and not backwards when he's hit. And that's an indication that when your head goes forward, you're hitting the chest. If you're hitting the head, it's going to go backwards. So on this play, I would say we have a defenseless player, but we don't have forcible contact to the head or neck area. I don't think we want targeting on this play. Now, when we look at it, there's a number of officials. I think all 7 of us could have an opinion on this. Certainly, the line of scrimmage and the deep 3, and I think where this defender comes in, I think the field judge who's at the bottom of the screen also can offer information on where this hit occurs. And so again, I think on this play we can go with a UNR as he's sliding and it's a late hit. Again, the quarterback on this particular play is down, is rolling around on the field, was knocked out of the game. I think we'd be supported in having a flag down on this. But I think the deep 3 on a play like this can really, the back judge especially, if you look at this, the back judge should be looking right where that contact is, which is in the chest. So bring that piece of the puzzle to the conversation. So H and R are down on this play. Sliding quarterback, go through the conversation on the field, forcible contact to the head or neck area. Here's an example of gets you in trouble to use that information of he's grabbing his cage. We did on the field use that information. Again, hard without replay, but if you're one of the deep officials and you have information that hit was to the chest, bring it to the conversation. And then the last piece, and then it looks like there might be some chat or some comment. Line of scrimmage officials, how we want to officiate these sliding quarterbacks is once they start their slide, go find the defender and watch the defender coming in. Now it's easier said than done. Start the slide, go find the defender, and then in terms of yard lines here, we missed this spot by a yard or two, probably 2 yards. You can put them at the 50. On the field without this hit, I would say go back a yard. Wherever you think he started his slide, probably go back 1 yard, and you're going to be more right than you are wrong on getting this spot right. But it's where his hips start to dip, and on this play, probably the 50-yard line. Now, in the grand scheme of things, I think it's good we have a flag and put the ball at the 48. But what questions do we have, Nick, or comments? Nothing? All right. Keep rolling then.
Oh, sorry. I thought I hit the unmute. One of the comments was about, is everybody clear here if we end up with that play occurring on 4th down, since they didn't achieve the line to gain and we turn the ball over to B after enforcement of the penalty? Because you can see it's 3rd and almost 20. So if that guy goes into the feet first slide there and then he gets targeted, that's a dead ball target.
That's a great, thank you for that point and clarification. If this was 4th down, the quarterback has given himself up when his hips start to dip. The play ends, right? And so if we ruled targeting and it was 4th down, we would not have an automatic first down for Team A. Team B would end up with the football. We would still enforce the penalty, but it's a dead ball foul for targeting. Good? All right. Next play. Again, we're talking quarterback hit here. I'll run this through press box one more time. Nick, you can throw the poll up as I show this. I think I'm just asking who might get a look at this. I'll go to the end zone. All right, if you want to launch that poll, you can. Yeah, I think the majority of us would say all of us on the field could have an opinion on this. I think yes, L and U, those that said L and U, yeah, I think that they may have most of this information, but really anybody on the field, I think, could bring some info on the field. Now, this is an interesting play when we talk about a runner versus a sliding quarterback versus a player in the grasp. And we talk about where the contact may have occurred. We know that the quarterback's got to start his slide for him to be defenseless. And I think if we're going to make this player defenseless, again, this is my thought. Do what your supervisor wants. Do what you think. This is tough to, by rule, make this player defenseless. I think you can blend together in the grasp and sliding, although he's kind of still going forward. So he's not in the grasp and he's kind of falling to his side. So it's tough to say that he's defenseless. And so a hit to the head or neck is targeting. I think the line judge on this play is a flag for UNS. I think the player gets up and shoves him. Again, now if you rule that he comes in with the crown of his helmet and leads with the crown of his helmet into the body of that quarterback, it's easy. We're targeting play for a crown into a runner or into a defensive player. But if it's not a crown play here, this may be where we on the field, again, if we had replay, we're going to throw this as replay and let replay take us off. But this is tough. And again, it might have to be talk with your crew and talk with your supervisor. I know quarterbacks are more protected than running backs. And so maybe because it's the quarterback, we'd get supported for this being a targeting foul. But it's tough to say that it's just sliding quarterback or just in the grasp of the defender. So again, I'm not gonna tell you this is or isn't targeting here, but something to think about on the field. But if we did have targeting and that player comes up and shoves them, and we have a flag for UNS, we would enforce both of these on the field. So, any thoughts or questions with this play?
Nothing in the chat.
Okay. All right. Let's roll this. Nick, you can launch the poll as this thing goes. I'm just going to loop it a couple times here. Give you the end zone shot too. All right, good. Majority of us think that he's not a runner, or I'm sorry, the majority of us think he is a runner, so he is not defenseless. I would agree with that. So on this particular play, he's not in the grasp of a defender. He's not down on the ground. His progress is still going forward on this play. So the only way we can have targeting on this play is if that defender that comes in hits him with the crown of his helmet. That's the only way we can have targeting. So our deep wing has a flag here for targeting. We as line judge, back judge, umpire, we need to get to our field judge here and start to talk to him and figure out why he has targeting. Because I think it's clear once we're watching this in replay that I don't think that there's a crown play on this. And so, yes, he might dip his head. He may get a forearm in his back or maybe in his neck, but he's he's not defenseless by rule as he's still a runner. So our field judge throws, line of scrimmage officials, back judges, we need to get in and have a conversation and get this picked up. And again, this is the type of play where, say we did have a crown play, our umpire has a flag for holding on the offense. And so we have a foul by the offense. And then if we did have a crown play, we have targeting by the defense. This is where, again, having a sound mind coming in and making sure that we're enforcing this properly, where these fouls are going to offset, but the player that targeted is going to be disqualified. That's important. And so, again, just being able to have that conversation on the field. But on this, we would want to get to our field judge and get that flag picked up. Good. Any questions, Nick, or should we jump to the next one?
All good. Keep rolling.
All right. 2 hits we want to look at here. First, hit on the receiver. Pretty big hit on the receiver. You can launch the poll, Nick, as I loop this. So we're asking, is there a foul for targeting on this play? So yes, 35 makes no attempt to wrap up, launches, leads with the shoulder into the chest of a defenseless receiver, or no, for that same reason. I'll give you the end zone too, sorry. All right, poll just ended. A little more split on this one than others. So I think the question in itself can lead us to the answer. Now, we have, oh, now the poll's closed. So let's walk through that flow chart here. We have a receiver who's in the act of catching a pass, so he is defenseless. We have a defender coming in. You can argue leads with the shoulder, maybe launches, but if that contact is in the chest, we can't have a foul for targeting. It needs to be in the head or neck area. So on the field here, when this hit happens and there's no flag, if you're using an 0-2-0, this may be a good play where somebody gets on that 0-2-0 after this hit, says, hey, that was in the chest. I got a good look at it. And maybe a few people are hopping on and saying that. But if we don't have anybody coming on and there's some smoke here, we may need to have a conversation to figure out where this contact occurs. Because, again, they're defenseless. There's forcible contact. If it is to the head or neck area, we would have targeting. The other hit we want to look at here is take a look at the quarterback on this play. Again, referees, you're on an island here. No poll question. Let's just take a look. Clearly defenseless. And so we need to determine, is that contact to the head or neck area? And again, we saw one of these earlier, but it appears that the defender does lower his head and does attack with his head down. We need to figure out, is that contact to the shoulder or the head? Good. All right, let's jump to this next play. We're almost done here. Receiver over the middle. Nick, I don't know if there's a poll to this one or not, but again, we have multiple flags down for targeting here. So we need to figure out, is he defenseless? Yes. Is there forcible contact to the head or neck area? We can look in the end zone here, and it appears that there is. So we would have a flag, or we would have a foul for targeting on this play. mechanically, again, line of scrimmage, again, these plays are big. They surprise us. Finish the play. Come up to the spot. It looks like the receiver catches the pass. So no need to throw your flag and run out onto the field. See this. Come up, kill the clock, and then talk about it. It looks like we got 3 or 4 flags down, so we should have a good conversation on the field about this. But walk through, what's the indicator? Clearly he's defenseless as a receiver. And then the defender comes in, leads with the shoulder, so we have an indicator. We have a foul for targeting. Good?
Still good. Keep rolling.
All right, we got 2 more plays here. On this play, you can launch this, Nick. Launch this pull as it runs through. I'm going to show you the end zone, probably the best look. So on this play, the deep wing at the top of the screen has a flag for targeting. The question is 81 defenseless when he's hit? Not is there a foul for targeting, but is 81 defenseless when he's hit? All right, results are in. It looks like the majority of us think that he's completed the process of a catch, turned into a runner, and therefore is not defenseless by rule. There is an element of time here, remember, and when we look at defenseless players, there's an element of time where a receiver can turn into a runner but still hasn't had an opportunity to protect himself. And so I would agree on this play that the contact is in the shoulder, but my thought is that 81 is still defenseless on this play as he's not yet had time to protect himself. Again, run at full speed, can make the argument, I guess, either way. But the key here is if the side judge has a flag for targeting, our back judge has to come in on this play and let them know that this contact is in the shoulder and not in the head or neck area of the receiver. We would want to get this, the back judge is going to save the day, take the side judge off of this, and let them know that the contact's in the shoulder. I can see why the side judge throws targeting on this play, right? You can argue that there's a launch, there's forcible contact, and from the side judge's perspective, it could be to the head or neck area. But clearly, when we get a look from where the back judge is, it's to the shoulder. Thoughts on this play, Nick? Any comments, questions?
Nope.
All right. Last one. You can launch it. I'm going to run it. I just want to know if everybody thinks this is targeting or not. It's really all I care about. What do you think? I'll run it through a couple times. Get rid of that poll, sorry. I'll give you an end zone here in a second. You can leave the poll open for a little bit. I'll run it through the end zone. Get your votes in if you haven't voted yet. All right. Results are in. I think 2/3 of us think this is not targeting, and leaves us with a third that thinks it is. Again, this is super tight. I think those of us that think this is targeting would say that defender comes in, makes no attempt to wrap up, and leads with his helmet and perhaps hits the receiver in the chin. And if that's the reason you think it's targeting, I would wholeheartedly agree. And then if you go to the end zone, sure looks like the contact may happen in the shoulder. And so I'm gonna go back to the press box after this and show you. Just let this run from when the officials throw the flag and the referee makes an announcement. One thing we want to do on this play is, if again our field judge and line judge had a flag for targeting, all four of us, that's the umpire right there, field judge is walking away, get in on this and have a conversation, because you may be right, that contact may have happened in the chest, in the chin. And we may have a foul for targeting on this play, but come together and have a conversation. I think that's the biggest thing, is don't just assume, field judge, that our line of scrimmage official has it. We have targeting. We're going to disqualify the player and move on. Get in on that conversation, and take our time through this. And heck, let anybody else that might have information on this. I'm not sure that there will be. I don't think the back judge has a great look at this, but talk about it. Again, this sells to everybody that we're having a conversation on the field, and when 24 needs to leave the game because he is a foul for targeting, we want it to appear that we've discussed this and we've gotten it right. This is tight. I'm not going to, again, those that say it's not targeting, your end zone, you're probably, your best look is the end zone, and you say that the contact is in the chest and the shoulder. Again, that's where having this conversation on the field is so important. Figure out where that contact did occur. But on this play, come together, have a conversation, talk about it, and don't just quickly, I guess, report and walk away. So, thoughts, questions, comments on this play or any others?
A couple things from the gallery, but otherwise, I think, good, a lot of good plays tonight.
Yep. All right. Well, those are the plays. I try to keep it to an hour, went a little bit over, but those are the plays I have tonight. If you got questions or thoughts, feel free to shoot me an email. But appreciate you guys logging in and going through these plays.
Thanks, AJ. I'm going to just wrap up with something real quick for everybody. Hopefully you can all see that. Just a recap of where we're at right now. We're taking next week off. Monday is the Memorial Day holiday. I'm sure you'll all be doing, whatever you're allowed to do outside, wherever you are, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, our next call next week for the group is on Thursday night at 8 o'clock. We have a lot of different presenters. We're going to talk about pre-snap routines and crew expectations for a variety of positions. So be on the lookout for the email and the invitation for that call next week. And then we'll get back to our test review calls starting on Monday, the 1st of June. But I want to thank AJ for the presentation tonight. Thanks everybody for joining us. And the quizzes and stuff are up on the website, so just head over there and check it out. But otherwise, have a great night. Take care, everybody.